gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Are you ready to pop your cork? In the left corner is 6'4", 242 pounds, with a record of 45-0, the undisputed.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Will.
Hey, how many bottles of wine have you had?
Well, Will, it's not the wine. I'm just so excited about the podcast.
Yeah, I am too. This is not a boxing match. This is Wineaux, Texas Vino.
Salute. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Will.
It's 2024.
2024. We did it. We did 1 year of kind of out there, out of our comfort zones. We did something extremely unique. We went out on the airwaves and did a podcast for a year. Yeah,
and and I actually it was just amazing the response that we got from it.
Yes, and we've met some great people. We have more great people in the house tonight, and we're just excited for 2024. What a great year it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing, and we got an amazing show lined up tonight.
We do. And then in a couple weeks, we're heading to East Texas, so get ready, all you East Texans. We're going to just raise the bar out there a little bit and have some fun. So we're excited about it. It's going to be a wonderful time. So we're Wineaux, Texas Vino, episode 46, technically, but our 51st episode, correct?
Yes, it'll be season 2, episode 46.
Season 2. We can call it season 2. We can call it the second year. We can do whatever we want to call it. But yeah, we're kind of fun. So tonight we're in a really great location. And ironically, I say ironically, that is a very, very intentional word. We're ironically back where it all started.
We are. And we actually are happy to be here at where we all started this from with the most amazing winemaker out there.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
Yes. Well,
and biggest person that makes fun of me every time I come in here.
Well, they're deservingly.
It's
right. All and so,
see, there you go.
so we're at the edge of the lake up in a beautiful area. Well,
Valley View.
It's Valley View still here, right? Yeah, Valley View, Texas.
Unless they moved Valley View yesterday.
And I love this area. Chris, what you've done out here, you and your family, is amazing. Not only is your tasting room top of the line, I mean, it's just so much fun. It's so homey, but just beautiful and classy. But just even driving in tonight with the sunset, your property is ridiculous. It is so gorgeous. So you are blessed. Your family's blessed for sure. But welcome, Chris McIntosh. Good to see you.
Welcome back. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
You were our first episode last year.
So I was. There's a lot more wires now.
I was going to say, can you describe to our listeners the first time and then what it looks like now?
I think we were one step away from just passing a mic around to each other at that point,
right? we will.
Well, you know what's funny about that is literally probably the first podcast where like a phone, some sort of like phone from 2006. You just pass around all the people talking and take turns. It drops. There's no editing. It's pretty funny, but we're super happy to be back here. Obviously, and Chris, I've bumped into you a dozen times over the past year, with our festivals or wine. But you and your family are just gracious, fun. And I mean, I wish you every day the very best, and I hope you just absolutely dominate up here. It's just I'm real excited for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, so Chris, you have some stuff you're going to kind of teach tonight. We're going to start it off with you, of course, just to celebrate our second year and right back where it all started. But what do you want to talk about tonight, Chris?
Just want to thank you guys for having us back and coming out and visiting us again. So in kind of honor of that, I guess, and your guest tonight, I brought out a sold out vintage of our 2020 Petit. And then I thought, well, this would be fun. Why don't I get out the current vintage that just this year won gold and best in category at the Lone Star International Wine Competition. So we could taste them side by side. So
wow, that's going to be amazing. So maybe just a little time to introduce our other guest, because he's going to participate here, and we want to make sure he's chiming in, because I think we have a lot to learn from this gentleman tonight, from what I've read on his Facebook account. And
he's pretty. I don't think he's very intelligent. Sometimes.
No, he looks smart, but that could be deceiving.
This man is the first time I met him.
Where did you meet him?
We were at a little get together at KK's house last year after we did Square Cloud.
Okay.
And he was pouring wine, and we got to talking, and he realized who I was, and then I did not know who he was. And he's like, "Well, you need to know me," and I was like, "Okay."
That's awesome.
And we started talking ever since then.
Well, let's introduce. So, Andy, welcome to our podcast. This is Andy Gonzalez. Is that correct? And
he's known as the Wine Guy.
The Wine Guy in Texas and beyond.
Wineaux Guy.
The Wineaux Guy.
Spelled like Bordeaux. Wineaux.
I was wondering why you were spelling it that way.
Wineaux. That makes sense. A little French.
When we talk shortly, I'll tell you about the Bordeaux story, and you'll know why.
Oh, I love that. Well, good. So, Chris, take over. So we have Andy here, we have Will here, and we have your sister here as well. She's over there taking pictures and doing some fun things. So we have quite the celebrity in the house tonight. So what are we going to do here, Will?
We got to toast this first. We always got to toast this episode first.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do it real quick. So salute to everybody. We're proud of everybody. Just very excited for all your successes. Of course, you probably heard that. That's pretty cool. So here goes.
Yeah.
Dead air.
Make it official.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's good. So, Chris, I want you to take over real quick. So, you have a couple wines here. So, what do you want us to do?
I just thought it'd be fun to taste them side by side.
Let's do it.
Like I said, one's the most recent vintage, and one's the 2020 vintage.
Okay.
So this is the third year we've made this wine. I just want to taste them side by side.
Let's do it. Yeah, I think we should take turns doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a little bit of a reason why you picked this particular wine.
Why is that?
Yeah. So when I first opened, Andy visited me with KK. We were probably open for a couple months, and he texted me, I don't know, several months later, probably. It wasn't a long time, wasn't very recent. And he said, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep doing it. I opened this bottle of wine and it tastes better today on day 5 than it did on day 1.
Interesting.
And at that point, we were going so fast, I hadn't even really had a chance to open a wine. And if y'all have met my wife, you realize wine doesn't last the whole week.
We've never met her at all.
So we purposely opened up a bottle and drank a little bit the first night, drank a little bit the second night, and all the way through the week. And it really made me, I started doing that with every wine after that conversation with him. So it's kind of a key point in the turn of when we do hit something on the head, make sure you know what it is and how to get there is let it sit out a little bit, let it open up over a course of a week. If it's still got legs on day 5, you're onto something.
Wow, that's amazing.
100%.
Okay.
And that just goes to show that you do listen to your customers that come in.
Clientele.
Well, everybody but you will. Yeah.
Poor Will.
Just kidding.
2024.
Yeah,
This year we
that's
get
a wrap.
Will, settle in. It's going to be a rough year, brother. If Chris is any indication.
So we let Andy choose which one is the oldest one first, or do
You're going to taste them first.
Yeah,
well,
taste them.
I've already tasted them.
Well, I think I had a sip of the first one.
Or actually, you know what? Since Michael and I are the novice at wine tasting, I think he and I should actually decide which one is what, and then you come back in, and then.
Well, I'm going to be guessing in that, I wanted to share with you, and I'm glad you started that way, because when you taste a wine, guys, ideally, what you want to do is always look at the color. Mm-hmm. And the color will tell you a lot about the wine before you put it in your mouth, before you smell it. If it's a little bit on the brown side, and I mean brown in the sense of, brown side, it's aging. Mm-hmm. So that would tell you a hint. And then, of course, you look at the legs tell you some things, but mostly about viscosity, which is really not critical to wine drinking or wine tasting. And then, of course, look at the color. Is it more magenta? Is it more red? Or is it more blue spectrum? The more red spectrum, it's going to be more on the acidic side of the 3.2 to 3.6 window. Of course, it's logarithmic, so 10 times, 10 times, 10 times. Mm-hmm. Or if it's more blue, it's going to tend to be a little bit less acidic. Not more alkaline, but less acidic, which is important because the blend, his wine, the grape choice, the stems and so forth, create that palate feel. So back to you guys. I'd like y'all to taste them first.
Okay, I haven't tried this one yet. I tried the other one. Okay, so which one we do first here, Andy?
Well, do the blue.
Blue. Okay, blue glass. All right.
Big nose of it.
Yeah, I got that.
Really, put your nose at the top of the glass. Yeah, never put your nose where your mouth goes.
Okay. Good advice.
Good. I won't get boogers in my mouth.
So, well, that's good.
But people don't realize that they literally put their mouth here. They had onions earlier, and they go, "This doesn't smell good."
Well, I think probably most of my life I did that actually. So that's good advice.
That is good advice. I never thought about that.
And if I'm correct, always smell with your mouth slightly open.
Yeah, you got to look like you got that creepy smile, like Jen would say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first one.
Okay, so that tells you something.
Okay.
What you're doing right now is perfect.
Yeah.
Smacking your lips.
Feeling it.
You're letting the oxygen come in.
Mm-hmm.
Your tongue only tells you salt, acidity, sour, sweet. That's all your tongue does. So, and if you wanted to test to see if his was too sugary, sugar is a big conversation piece in wine these days because of carbs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
If you were to kind of hold your nose, you don't actually physically have to hold your nose, but if you hold your nose and don't breathe, and as you taste it, let it run around your mouth. Mm-hmm. And if you taste nothing on the tip of your tongue, there's no sugar added.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's good to know. I never knew that.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you go, is this sweet, quote unquote, or is this fruit forward? Fruit forward is what you want.
Yes.
You don't want sweet, unless of course you want to drink sweet.
Intentional, yeah, right.
And a lot of people get fruit forward mixed with sweets.
It's a whole different animal, though. Drinking sweet wines. So we're still on the blue one, and we're still absorbing it and learning.
And when you could go, kind of gargling with your mouth, you'll feel the tannins, which is very strong in this blue little bottle.
I love it. I love that taste around the back of the tongue. I love that taste.
Isn't that great?
It makes you smile. It just makes you want to smile.
And what we call this is firm tannins.
Yeah.
The other word that we use a lot of times when you have something like this, and this is the Petit Verdot, giving you the tannins, not the Tempranillo, is the is chewy.
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. I did that. Okay. That's good. And so now we're going to duplicate that effort with the second glass of wine here.
Same thing. Look at the color first.
Yep, I saw the color.
And
beautiful.
You can tell it's different. Hopefully you can tell it's
I don't see it yet.
Oh, yeah,
but
there's
it's darker.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. I mean, it's a slight color difference. You can see it.
And the nose, see what you think about the nose.
Put it over your paper. You can see it.
The white paper sometimes helps.
Or you can put it over my white skin.
You know what? That's a wonderful statement. So when I'm in wine classes, people will say, well, I don't always have a piece of paper with me.
Right.
I said, look at the bottom of your hand. Your hand is probably the lightest part of your body.
Yeah.
You know, that you can show.
Oh.
At a wine tasting. Just saying. So,
I mean, I
you can
guarantee
show at a tasting, Will.
Well, Andy, this is not that type of establishment.
Yeah. For all of you here and for our listeners, if you go anywhere dark at all, even just for a moment, Will contribute and he will add too. So just be heads up there.
Just because I made a comment with Michael Barton.
Yeah. Well, so I'm ready to give this one a whirl.
Man, wait till you taste this one.
I can already smell it. I can smell the aggressiveness.
And this is chewier tannins. And so that should tell you something also, just so you know. But I'm not going to say any more until you tell me what you think. Until Chris, because Chris knows the answer.
Yeah, Chris knows the answer.
I don't even know the answer.
Yeah.
I'm really going to just guess here too.
So I want to make this guess here.
Hold on. Before you do, the blend, while it's the same two varietals, one is 83% Tempranillo and 17% Petit Verdot, while the other one 75-25.
Okay, so a little difference.
Little difference. It's always different.
So
a little bit.
So
12% difference.
We need to guess which year it is.
Yes.
And do we need to know that which blend?
No, I was just giving you that as a context clue.
The 2022 is.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What years?
20 and 22.
Right. So 2022, we got that down. So
2 years apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just so happens, I'm actually running through my head right now, looking at my wine collection in my house right now. And I actually have a bottle of this actually in my refrigerator. I think I actually got 2 bottles of this back there. So I think I know which one is what.
Okay. Well, we'll find out in a minute. But yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Okay.
And if I'm
I
right,
should write down my answer as well.
If I'm right, well, y'all will never live that one down.
Yeah. So, Andy, what are some of the differences you're noting already in the two?
First of all, the one of them, the non-blue, is more tannic. First of all, you can taste the chewiness. It gets a lot more tannins. A lot more mouthfeel. Then the nose, of course, the blue, and I guess our guests on the air cannot tell that we're looking at a glass that has a little blue dot. So the blue dot glass has more fruit forward to it, to me.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. Absolutely.
And a lot of times when you drink a wine and you taste a wine, what we call a muted nose, a muted bouquet, that tells you when you're doing a linear or what they call a vertical wine tasting, that's one of the things you look at, not look physically, but notice is the differences in the bouquet.
Right.
Of course, you've already looked at the color because we already said that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And of course, we know that his Tempranillo comes from...
Ready. That Tempranillo, yes.
And the Petit Verdot comes from...
Ready.
Okay. So you know it's high plains, so that's going to tell you something else as well. So you take some of this stuff that's right on the label of the bottle and tells you so much. But one of the things about taking, I have these wine classes that I teach, and one of them is to someone that says, I'm at the grocery store in the wine aisle, now what?
Right.
How do I avoid buying a crap bottle of wine? But I don't want to spend $200. I want to spend $15 to $25.
Right.
So that's one of the things I help teach.
Interesting. That's good. And a lot of people probably have that dilemma. Actually, they go to the grocery store. Probably the majority of people, they're grocery store shoppers. They're not, going to the local wineries they like labels and But I think it's a good place to start, and that's what we want to teach. We want to teach people to have more appreciation for not only the effort that goes into the bottle. And the label, but of course the bottle, but just to appreciate that more. So, Will, I'm going to put you on the spot, buddy. So, blue dot
is what year?
Good. And then I have my guess. I know you guys will trust me. I'm going to write them down.
I'm kind of torn on this. I mean, part of me want to say the Blue Dot is the 2020.
We only have two choices.
But I mean, I know that, but it's part of me want to say that one is because it has more defining tannins on it.
Okay.
But at the same time, the one that doesn't have the Blue Dot doesn't, which means tells me it sat in the bottle a lot longer.
Okay.
Because coming out of the barrel, it's going to have a little bit more tannins on it. So my guess is the 2020 is going to be without the Blue Dot.
Okay, interesting. Well, we're both going to be put in our place here real quick.
Yeah, most definitely.
So I think, based on the percentages that I heard earlier, I think the Blue Dot is the 2020. And so the reason for that is it aged. I love the smell. I mean, it's just amazing. But it also is more mature to me. It's something on my palate gave me the maturity of that wine, even though 2022 is not exactly brand new. But to me, I kind of feel that way. I feel like it's a little bit more mature to me.
What here goes. You, Michael?
A deeper taste. So to me, with my palate, I just get something real deep on my tongue and in my as I'm drinking it and swallowing it.
Said Blue Label is what?
I'm going to go Blue Label 2020.
And I said this one right here, the non-Blue Dot.
This is why we have a podcast to learn.
I said that was 2022. Yes.
Right.
Okay. So, and now your thoughts, sir.
I was going to ask Chris what he thinks first.
Oh, what Chris thinks. So what he knows.
He can't do that.
Well, you know what? Can I ask? Can I do it quick?
Sure.
Without putting her on the spot officially.
Well, she's on the spot now.
Oh,
or she's too late. You already put her on the spot.
Switch.
Have you tried it over there?
Blue Dot is.
Okay, so
now,
Andy,
now we got 2-1.
Now we get the pro, and then I'll have Chris wrap it up.
I'm thinking.
Okay.
Again, just based on what I know about this, I would say to me the Blue Dot is the younger. The Blue Dot is the 2022.
The younger. Okay. All right. And can you tell us why?
To me, it's just the fruitiness, the nose. Petit Verdot tends to be more tannic.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that has the higher Petit Verdot would, by just doing the math, would typically be the chewier one.
Okay.
But I don't know how much oak they have, those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
which could affect the tannins.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go out on a limb, and that's what I'm going to say.
But you say go out on a limb, Andy, but you really are an expert at this. And so there's some other things probably that you added into your equation, your math equation.
The color. Yeah. So this
color
tends to have a little bit more of a brown tint to me.
Okay.
So
And you had mentioned earlier that it's older, right? Okay. Very good.
And then the legs on them are a little bit different.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The legs do tell you something. So
Sure.
A lot of people go, oh, well, it must be this or it must be that, but it's viscosity. So it's what's happening is the alcohol is creeping out of the glass, taking with it the water that's in the wine, that is wine, because wine is 90% water. So
Right.
it's taking the water up, and as it hits the pinnacle of whatever it is, it drops the water, hence bringing now the drip. That's the fall you're seeing. You're not seeing the rise. You're actually seeing the fall of the water.
Okay.
And so the viscosity tells you a little bit about the alcohol content,
Nice.
or the thickness, if you will, which is viscosity.
I want to change my vote.
You can't do that.
Oh,
now.
darn it. Okay. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, this is a democracy. Once you vote, you're done.
It's 2-2. It's two mature, amazing human beings versus two people who had way too much wine tonight. So, Chris McIntosh.
So I'm the tiebreaker.
You are tiebreaker.
You're the sober one around here.
This is a perfect intro to 24, though. This is what we want people to do. We want people to be thinkers. We want them to think about wine. It's so beautiful to think about the life and the vintage and all the hard work and the sweat equity, but also the taste. We want people to appreciate wines more. Yeah. So, Mr. McIntosh.
So the Blue Dot, as we've been calling it, is the 22 vintage.
Okay.
Yep. The one that one is 25% Petit Verdot with the 75% Tempranillo. They were both aged for the same amount of time on French oak. Alcohol difference, I believe this was 13.2 and this is 14.1, if I remember correctly.
So pretty close.
So a little bit, not terribly far apart, but definitely difference on the palate. So
what he's saying is Will was right.
Will was right.
Good job, Will and Andy.
Will was right.
Good job. That's all right.
And
Michael, you won't live this down around, right?
Well, it's okay to be wrong. That's how you grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fail forward.
And eat that microphone.
Bumped it with my foot. That was not good. So, what else, Chris? Can we learn about these two wines and then let's showcase them? I mean, did they both win awards?
Oh yeah, the 2020 was our first stab at the San Francisco International Wine Competition. Took gold out there in our first year. Ironically, it had only been in the bottle for about 5 months at that time.
That's amazing.
This 22 vintage has only been in the bottle for a few long months, maybe 4 now. I can't remember exactly. And so it's unreleased. The 20 is sold out. We're just down to library wines.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought it'd be fun to play with one that this sold out so fast. I don't think I kept enough of it behind.
Okay. Yeah.
The 22 is not released yet, but it's already getting some medals out there. So a nice comparison.
Well, when do you plan on releasing the 22 then? I know you're very particular about that stuff. So is there a time you've estimated? Release date?
No, I have not.
Okay. Interesting. That's a decision.
Yeah. I didn't include 21 in this because it's on our current menu. So depends on that as well.
A 2024 decision. That'd be cool.
Definitely segue into that for you.
It'll probably be in fall of 2024.
Okay. So a good full year. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good. Well, Chris, thank you so much for not only providing the great establishment here for us to hang out and to interview this gentleman, but also for the wine. We are blessed, aren't we?
Yes, we're always blessed.
About 9 out of 10 wineries you go to, they have wines poured for us. And it's like, oh, darn, what a rough job. What a rough gig. Andy, a rough gig right there. So, well, good. Well, let's transition real quick. Let's talk about one of our sponsors real quick. We're just really proud of what we've experienced with them in the past, but also in the future. But Texas Wine Lover app and website. We love those guys. We heard today a gentleman speaking about his new podcast. I think is it a visual podcast? I think he called it.
It's a video.
And he was showing some cool things, but he mentioned these folks as well. And that's, of course, The Godfather.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman.
Yep. And so we're really proud of that relationship down there.
You never heard of The Godfather and Wonder Woman?
And he's giving us a look real quick.
So we're talking about Jeff Cope.
Anyway. Yep.
Yeah. So Jeff, as we're interviewing him,
we came up with these names with him when we were sitting down there in Fredericksburg, and we were like 12 bottles deep.
Well, Jeff is a silent assassin. He's intelligent. He's doing great things with the wine industry. And so as I looked at him and was listening to him, I named him the Godfather.
Yes.
And then Amy being so just amazingly brilliant as well as enthusiastic, and she's a connector.
And she's pulling everything together.
She's Wonder Woman. So we love that. But that is a great sponsorship to have. And we're really honored to be associated with those guys for sure, just like we will be with Andy and all the wineries that we continue to see. So that's number one. So let's get into our podcast here. Will, are you excited?
I'm definitely excited for 2024.
So is this part 1, episode 56 of what how are you going to label this?
Well, I don't know. How long is Andy going to talk about it? How much is Chris going to make fun of me during the whole thing?
Let's do 2024 episode 46. Let's just keep it simple and short.
Let's keep it simple. If it's an hour and a half, it's an hour and a half.
Well, as we know, Texas Vino. We're excited to be here, and we have a great guest tonight. Thanks for joining us tonight, Andy Gonzalez, and we appreciate you, the wine guy, and we're Wineaux.
Wineaux Guy.
Just like Bordeaux. So tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and why are you involved in this great Texas industry?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. I love this kind of stuff. Of course, I've known Chris for a while now, which has been fun to watch him grow, watch his business and wines ebb and flow. There's been some things that he and I have talked about. He's asked me to be brutally honest with him on everything.
Beautiful.
And of course, you may not know this, but I started judging with the Lone Star Wine Competition back in 2015. So I've come across wines from Texas completely so often, and it's just a little bit from I guess I'm pointing at you like I gotta turn it down a little bit.
Yeah, right. It's a little loud. Our tech guy's working on it. So, yeah,
tech guy. So anyway, that's wonderful. I love this wine world. A little bit about myself. First of all, you guys out there, welcome to 2024.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes. It's fun to be the guy to start the year off.
Perfect.
I started my wine world in 1979. I'm from Dallas, Texas, Carrollton, grew up in Carrollton, and started with a restaurant called the Magic Time Machine. Some of y'all may have heard of it. It's
Addison.
Yes, sir. Okay. Addison, they dress in costumes.
Yes, it's a great place. I've never been, but I've heard many things. Well,
and of course, I said 1979. So in 79, the world had just started understanding California wine.
Okay.
It was mostly Italian, French wine because it was a steakhouse. So naturally, that's where my teeth were cut. Plus, I used to live in Tehran when I was a young boy. So coming back as a 17-year-old, traveling through Europe, I was able to, for the first time, taste some different wines and fell in love with the flavor profile, if you will, of Bordeaux, French wine. And we sold French wine at the restaurant. The guy that owned the restaurant was one of the biggest steak producers in the state of Texas. Prime rib was the other thing. Prime rib and ribeye. So, wow.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. And my palate grew from there. That was 1979. And then fast forward 10 years, 1989, I started working as a server in what is known as a company called Liaison Party Services. We were one of the first and biggest server companies. So if you have a restaurant, if you have a party, a catering function, you call us. We send the team out there and we start the process. So we had a customer that asked, do you have any guys that know wine? And they said, we got this one guy, he could probably help you. So that's when I started learning how to pair wine.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to work with some of the amazing chefs.
In 1989.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. Okay, so you're way ahead of the game here.
Well, I'm a little older than you guys. So,
just about 5 days.
Yeah. 5 days.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I'm proud of it. I'm 63 this year.
Yahoo.
So 64 coming up. And so that was that. And it ended up turning into a really cool little deal because we had clients looking for someone that could pair wine, that could tell us about wine. And so I was in demand. And it was fun. It was fantastic. Fast forward to 91, I got a job working for the Dallas Cowboys when Jerry Jones bought them. And it just so happened that they needed a guy to take over the what they call the suites. So there was a suites and a club up there called the Stadium Club, which was the venue at the end zone. I guess it was the home end zone. And then they said, would you like to help us build the wine department? I said, sure. So next thing I know, I'm tasting 300 to 400 to 500 wines during the summer to determine the wines that are going to go in the suites and in the Stadium Club.
And how many wines from that huge amount did you select? Was it you selected 50 to 100?
About 50.
Okay, 50.
50 wines.
Yeah,
because,
that makes sense.
And then, of course, we had clients that would say that owned like the Hunts or, there's big names, that were around Texas Stadium in those days. And they would say, we need something better. What do you got? Well, then they would call me and I'd have to figure that out for them.
Okay, very good.
It was awesome.
Wow.
So I did that till 96.
Okay, so it's a good 5-6 years doing that. That's a really exciting career. I mean, that's amazing.
That's a horrible job.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like what we're doing right now, tasting wines. Awesome.
Well, and so
what did you learn from that though? Did you not only learn about wines, but did you learn about business? Did you learn about the business model that Jerry Jones was producing? And how did you contribute to that? And were you instrumental in maybe advancing that? I mean, what did you learn from that?
I learned a ton. I learned that my palate was better than I thought.
Very nice.
Which was fun because the guys, and at the time it was Siegel's was a company, big company then. So it's what would you call Siegel's? A retail store, I guess, right?
Retail and distribute. Yeah. I mean, they distribute to most of the restaurants and bars in Dallas. Yeah.
And back then, that's how it worked. In Texas, it's a 3-tier system, so only certain levels can do certain things.
Yes.
But anyway, I got to meet some of the primary gentlemen that, not only that, the owners of these places, and then they would teach me some things that at that time I didn't know. But then I had started honing my skill, if you will.
There you go.
And I got really good at it, and so left there and dabbled in catering and some other things for years with several catering companies. But and then there was this little bar that opened up. It's a franchise, I believe, and I know they're out of business in Texas. But it was called Wineaux 100, which Vino means wine, and what that was we sold 100 wines all under $25.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
So someone would walk in the store and say, "Hey, I want a wine that's la la la." So then I started developing my how would I put this? The way I sell wine, the way I talk about wine. Well, so I figured out that guess what? Fruit is the good way to start. So I'd say, what are your favorite fruits? Do you like cherries or do you like plums? Oh, I like plums. Okay, so that takes it to a different type of wine. Do you like sweet or do you like sour? And they'd say, oh, I don't like sour wine. I said, well, just humor me. And they would say whatever there was. Because as you know, wine, when we talk about dry wine, the spectrum is sweet or dry.
Right.
Basically, yeah.
Right. So, but people needed to understand that everything that we sold, I would say 99% was dry wine, meaning not sweet. Right. So even the sparkling wines that we sold were dry. Not sweet. So that went on. And then the owner there was a buddy of mine. He says, how would you like to help us out and manage in the evenings? I'm like, sure. So next thing I know, I managed this little wine store and drinking, again, hundreds of wines a week. And
Man.
For our listeners, that's a gorgeous thing. 100.
So that doesn't mean he's an alcoholic, though.
No, he was tasting them, and yes,
and I was tasting, but I learned, and that's going to take me to my next little piece of this story because it has been a fun story. It's been a fun life.
I bet.
I hired a life coach. I was going right around 2010, 2011. So that would put me at 50 years old. And she said, well, what do you love to do? I said, I love drinking wine. She goes, oh. And then I said,
don't you love those comments?
Yeah, I love to travel. She says, oh, okay, that's good. And I said, I love to teach. And she says, teachers don't make a lot of money, and I know how you want to live. But if you want to drink a lot of wine and travel, then you have to make more money anyway. Mm-hmm. So she says, well, why don't we create a persona that revolves around wine, travel, and teaching? And I said, okay, what could we do? And we came up with Wineaux Guy. But it started out as W-I-N-O, and I realized that that's not a good person to be, W-I-N-O.
Right.
So then I was drinking with some buddies, and he says, well, your favorite wine is what? I said, Bordeaux, and it clicked.
Bam. Wineaux, Bordeaux.
Wineaux, Bordeaux.
And how do you spell Bordeaux? B-O-R-D-E-A-U.
X.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Spelling bee champion. Thank you very much.
Second place to your brother.
Second place to my brother. Third grade.
And so there it is. So Wineaux Guy was invented.
I love it. Okay.
And
nice.
At that time, there was a company, I don't even know if they're in business anymore, called Groupon.
Oh, they're still there.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know about it. So I said, I have an idea. I'm going to teach wine classes. And they said, okay, how would you do this? So I created a method to it. And I'm not going to get into the numbers, but it was very lucrative for about 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Because I was the first person pretty much in the state to do some kind of wine class. And I called it Wineaux Guy's Wine Experience.
Fun.
And what I said at the very beginning of this podcast was that I'm in a store at a wine aisle. Now what do I do? So I would teach people how to get to the next level.
How did you market that? I mean, I get what you're doing there, and I think it's outstanding, but how would you connect with people and build that relationship to get people to say, this sounds like a fun class? How'd that all happen for you? Or did you have someone helping you in that regard? Maybe your sister?
Groupon helped me.
So Groupon was the magic.
Point.
Okay.
Then I created a website.
Okay.
And put the classes.
Okay.
So people could look up education. And then they would see, well, at the time, I was the only one doing this.
Wow.
So I was traveling all over the state doing these things.
Very cool.
I ended up in Fredericksburg a few times teaching classes. Ended up in Corpus. Ended up in San Antonio and Austin. And then when I would travel, I would tell whoever I'm coming to see, friends or whatever, I say, hey, let's put together a class. And they'd say, fantastic. How much is it? And I would tell them, great. Next thing I do, my trip's paid for. Went to Cancun, did the same thing.
Nice. All right.
And
wow, that's definitely a horrible job. I had to go to Cancun and drink wine all at the same time.
So now I can only ascertain, though, that as you're going through this part of your life and this story, that it wasn't just Texas wines. You probably were becoming very proficient in all wines. Is that correct? I mean, you couldn't just focus on one at the time. Tell us how you balance that.
That's a great thing. And I'm going to say it this way. Yes, Wineaux Guy is a multi-dimensional wine drinker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't discriminate against any wines.
There you go.
I've drank some sweet wines, and I've drank some good sweet wines. My parents, one of their wines that they used to drink was this called Reuniti. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember Reuniti. It feels so good.
On ice.
Yeah.
That's Reunited.
Reunited. Okay.
Yeah.
Reuniti on ice.
On ice, that's nice.
I remember that. It's nice. That's what it was. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Reuniti on that's nice.
And then the other one was this thing. It was in a bottle that looked like a little terracotta bottle. And the name is escaping me, but it'll probably pop in here and I'll just blurt it out. But
there you go.
Okay. That's what I was drinking. And then my mom would only drinking sweet wine. And I worked at a steakhouse. So I said, Mom, no, let's not do that. And wine is personal, right? First of all. So yes. Back to this thought process, that's how that comes about. You know, I really started with my family. Actually, as I'm sitting here with you guys thinking about this, I started with trying to get my parents to learn how to drink wine.
That's pretty cool.
You know, and I've done the same thing. You know, I've got my mom and my stepdad to drinking wine, and at first they only would drink only sweet wines, and I haven't got my mom completely converted yet. But my stepdad, he's always coming over like, okay, let's open a bottle of wine, and I'm like, Dang, Wineaux.
You converted them. Yeah, that's good. Well, you got to start somewhere though, and that was kind of like the spark. And then I'm so intrigued because it's tough to encapsulate your entire story in a matter of time. But I can already tell that there was a ignition. Something really got you going. It probably was starting with the family and then having some opportunities, doors wide open, and you capitalized on that. Everything from the Cowboys experience to the steakhouse. So it took you into the mid 1990s and into 2000.
Into the 2000s, yeah. So the 2000s is as I realized that certain jobs you wanted to have letters after your name.
Okay.
This psalm letter, that psalm letter. And I've never been a fan of that per se because I've been drinking wine over 40 years. So a lot of these people that are, and again, I have some really good psalm friends.
Absolutely.
But, the definition of psalm really is someone that serves wine.
Right.
Right. When I went to Europe, I lived overseas. I took a class and I learned 5 languages. So I get proficient. Of course, I'm Mexican, so Spanish was my first, and then English, and then French, and then I learned to speak Farsi, and then Italian and Greek. So those kind of things also help mold me because you learn about the culture when you learn about a language. Right. So part of that culture is wine.
Absolutely.
And I've always been a voracious reader, so I love voracious reading. So I decided I would find out about, for example, where did wine start? Well, guess what? I lived in Tehran, Iran. So wine started supposedly just north of Tehran.
That's incredible.
Years ago.
Yeah, sure.
Crazy.
No, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I've actually read stuff about that as well. It's really interesting. Yeah. Most people think it's Europe because that's such a superficial, easy way to go. But it started in the Middle East and Tehran. That makes sense. You probably were right there. Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
And it is incredible. And I've drank wines from Morocco. So back to what you said a second ago, Wineaux Guy is multidimensional. It can't be about just Texas wine, but I love Texas wine and I want to promote Texas wine. And so wherever I go, whenever I'm with friends, regardless of what their pocketbook says, I tell them we must drink some Texas wines.
Good. And so what you're doing, and I know we have a lot more to learn from you, but has this gone national then? Are you all over the country doing this? Or are you pretty much here in California? I mean, where's your battleground?
Texas is my battleground.
Okay, good. So there's no doubt then you're promoting Texas wines in the state of Texas.
No doubt.
And even knowing Chris here, I mean, he's doing such a great job here. It's easy to say, well, you need to come here. But you've probably now been in dozens, if not hundreds of places where you're like, this is good stuff here in Texas. And it's one of my big questions at the end.
I've tasted probably around 3,000 wines.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Wow.
That I can tell you the names of. Not that I say, because when working with the Cowboys, I was drinking so much. That sounds horrible.
I love it.
Yes.
Tasting was the word you were looking for.
Tasting.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, we're not editing anything over here. So he's drinking. So it's blackmail stuff later.
I love it.
Yeah. So, yes. I was tasting several wines, but I also learned, one of the things I learned, and I love to teach this when I teach wine, someone will say, well, what do you know about this? And they bring me a bottle and show me this bottle. Okay. Well, I don't know anything about it right now because there are millions, and I've only had 3,000. So I look at the bottle, but because I know how to read a label. So I will read a label, and then I can tell them, my customer, about it. For example, I have a customer. She called me up. She found me on Facebook, and she says, I have this 1973 Chateau Lafite Rothschild that my dad left me 2 bottles. Would you come over and tell me about them? And I'm, come over. So, weird life is weird. Your stories earlier, but we won't go there.
Please don't.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
This is not about my personal life.
But I went, and it turns out her father had died and left her these 10 or 15 wines, but these 2 were the ones that stood out to her. And she says, how much are they worth? And I Googled it. They're worth about $2,000 a bottle.
Wow.
Holy cow.
So
awesome.
She says, can we do one of your wine classes? 10, 15 people. And let this be the wine that we end with. Well, one of the bottles was bad.
It was, okay.
She started crying. It was so sad to see her get all upset about it.
Right.
But the second bottle was amazing.
Oh, my goodness.
But I will tell you, so that's 1973. This is 2023, so that was last year. So that's whatever that math is, 45 years, 50 years?
Yeah, 50 years.
It was okay.
Wow.
The oldest bottle of wine I drank with my good friend right here. And it was, 13 years old?
Yeah, not that old compared to what he just described.
10 years old?
Yeah, so I think it was 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah, it wasn't as old as you had. And I was very skeptical on it because it was a Texas wine. And, we all know that old world wines hold up a lot better than new world wines. In most cases,
got the finger.
Man, he gave me the finger.
Yeah, he gave you the look.
Not the finger, but a finger.
Yeah,
read the room, Will. Read the room.
So maybe we'll talk. I wrote down a note.
That's something I've always been told. I was always told that old world wines actually hold a lot better than a lot of new world wines because of what we put into it, the additives that we put in it, where they didn't do that 100 years ago.
I'm going to disagree completely. And Chris, you may want to chime in just a second because I know that he doesn't put a lot of additives in. And they'll remember what he said at the very beginning. 5 days later, this tastes a lot better. Well, but that's across the board. Almost, matter of fact, that 1973 that we did, I had to pour it a special way with a lot of, not equipment, but you can't just dump it into a glass.
Right.
So we have to decant it. So we decanted for 6 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
And then the bottle itself was crusty. It was cool. It was cool. But back to your point, Europeans have been around longer, first of all. So our country's only been here 200 years, although Texas has been doing wine for 400 years, something like that.
Yep.
And so the way they make their wines, there are winemakers here in this country, in this state, that I would say can do that. And as they say, only time will tell.
Right.
Because 10 years from now, we'll be drinking one of Chris's 2019, 2020s, and then we'll see how that goes. And not every wine, of course. Now, you got to remember this, guys. Even in Europe, not every wine is cellarable. C-E-L-L. Cellarable.
100%.
Right.
Not everyone. Most wine, just so you know, most wine is meant to be drank within its first 4 years.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was thinking, I have about 10 European wines at my house I brought back from the mid 90s. And I brought them back for the labels just to have them and just say, hey, look at what I have. Look at me. Right. But I'm curious because I'll probably have to start drinking them eventually. But it'll be interesting to follow your formula and just say, okay, are these good? And we'll have to make sure we pour it properly. We'll invite you all over and have some fun. But it'll be interesting. Time does tell. You'll never know if these wines are going to be drinkable.
Well, there's a new tool, without mentioning the company. There's a new tool that you can drink a little an ounce of a bottle without affecting the wine.
Okay.
And that's what I would do if I were you. Now, I would tell you that if you have anything that is white, that's that old, forget about it.
No, it's all red.
White doesn't.
Yeah, it's all red.
So then the reds, you're going to want to go with things that are because not every grape varietal, as they're called, not every varietal is designed for cellaring.
Right.
For example, a Gamay grape is designed to be drank typically. Again, most of this stuff is typical. There's never an always in the wine business. I'm
going to email you and take pictures of all my wines I have eventually. And just like, Michael, that's junk. Or, hey, that will be interesting. When are we coming over? Right. And so invite Chris here and come on over. But yeah, it'll be really fun to do that because so much to learn.
Yeah. We talked about the aging of wines and stuff. I was listening to a book a couple months ago called The $1 Billion Wine. And they found wine in a hidden cellar that they blocked up from the Nazis and found out that was Thomas Jefferson.
The other day.
The Thomas Jefferson's wines that they were supposed to be shipped over here and they never made it over here. And they were showing it off to one of the wineries that was still open. And they were walking around, holding it in their hand like a baby and all that, and barely tapped the corner of a wall, and the glass just shattered on them. Of course, yeah. And people were running over there with their fingers in the water and the wine on the ground, tasting it to see what they get a little taste of it. But they said it was a muddy color.
And of course, you don't remember the history of wine. So, as part of Wineaux Guy, one of my things that I do for myself to help you as the customer is understand the beginnings of wine.
Nice.
Glass has changed.
Oh,
corks have
true.
changed. I took some courses at Grayson County at the college up there before I even started really getting into some of this stuff. I got to work with a instructor there by the name of Dr. Mitchell. Great man. He's probably one of the premier Texas winemakers. As a matter of fact, I'm not positive about this, but my understanding is he's the first winemaker to win double gold in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
And he's passed away, of course. He passed away about 5 years ago. But I had the honor to do a wine competition with him as one of the judges, just he and I.
Wow.
And talk about wine as we drink it. And
that's a treasured moment. Yeah, that's a treasured moment. That's pretty amazing to have that. And I think we heard from another winemaker that some of these resources, we're losing a few of them. So having guys like you and Chris here who are really embracing what's happening in Texas right now is super important because, chit tag, you're it, right, Chris? I mean, you really are, you and your family and the other winemakers we know. But to lose those resources, Andy's getting a little emotional, but we all are. Because, don't apologize. Don't apologize.
Drink some more wine, you'll be fine.
We run into that all the time. That, just those great people who were instrumental. Actually, they were pioneers in the Texas wine industry, in my opinion. But so continue on. Yeah.
Well, and so Brushy Creek, what was his name?
Les.
Yes,
Constable.
Les. Yes, Constable.
He was also one of my mentors.
Wow.
And now I have a new mentor, and I'm going to put a shout out to KK. I know they're out of the state. During the holidays, they were out of the state, I should say. And she has a winery, vineyard. I've been out there since the beginning, helping her with planting, harvesting, pulling frozen vines out of the ground, replanting them, making wine with her, crushing wine with her. Her and Scott are just freaking amazing. And you talk about what you just said about, almost like legacy.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Leadership, legacy. Yeah. Iconic.
We have people that are going to do it right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Andy, we've met a lot of great people, and I'm so honored to be here with you as well. I've been real excited about this for over a week. I think we're just really pumped up to get here with you, and thanks for all you do for the industry as well. But people like KK, she's just so kind, and there's a good spirit about her, and she is electric, but also very appealing. Right? There's something contagious about her that it's beautiful. So we need people like that to spearhead, to get after it, and so that's why we're grateful for you, and of course McIntosh family, everyone who we met. My gosh, last year was just the beginning. The beginning of the great people we've met. So so keep it up. So pretty exciting. So not to get back into your story because I'm just so intrigued, but so you're kind of into the 2000s, 2005. You're getting the realm. Are you starting to learn your identity, the thing that you absolutely are passionate about now? Because you are the wino.
Two things. One, yes, but you asked me another question that I didn't fully answer. You said,
go for it.
You asked me about Texas Stadium and how I got along there with them. Did I do anything? Did anything happen? Did I learn? So yes, I learned all that stuff. But one of the things that was fun to me is I'm a restaurant guy also. I've been in the restaurant business for a long time. And I told them, I said, you know what we could do? Again, have all of y'all been in the Stadium Club or no?
No, I've not been in the Stadium Club.
I can afford to walk, even look in the driveway.
I have. Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's this big room, right? And it's left to right, if you will, coming from the glass field. And the way they do broadcasting, left to right, the field.
That's right, on the radio dial.
Yeah, I love Brad Sham. So left to right, and there's these bars on the ends.
Okay.
That's how it works. And we were running, as the manager, I have to do the receipts. So we were running about $4,000 a game. I said, this is way too much work for not enough profit. And so I redesigned both bars, and I put them, because I'm an efficiency guy too. And so I put them together, changed it over. So here we are, game one. That was 1993, I guess. First Super Bowl.
Super Bowl champion winners.
Yep. Whoop, whoop. And we did $16,000.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so three times.
Before,
yeah. Four times.
Like, what the heck? Why? And without getting into detail, because there's efficiencies that are part of that.
Absolutely.
And that was one of my biggest, I guess, best legacies.
Yeah.
And as I saw the new stadium be built, all the bars are designed based on my.
Interesting. So I have the new stadium and seen some of that. I'm starting to visualize it a little bit. So that's kind of one of your creations, what you contributed, and for sure your contribution to Jerry Jones and company. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, so that's a great lesson, right?
Yeah.
Move forward.
Move forward. And you have to move forward. So next thing you said 2005. So here we go.
Yeah.
Well, so I started doing some more traveling. I found out through a friend of mine that they were making good wines in Mexico. One particular area called Coahuila. And Coahuila is more in the center of Mexico. It's like a hidden Napa Valley, if you will. And I use Napa Valley very loosely because there are now places like Paso Robles and
we love that place.
Santa Barbara and the Finger Lakes and little nooks and crannies in places that are now making amazing wines. So they do Mexican wine. And then, of course, Baja California, there's some unbelievable winemakers in Baja California.
I did not know that. That's interesting. I've been down there. I did not know that was a big thing down there.
Oh, my gosh. And you would be shocked. So I started getting my Wineaux guys, I don't want to say pushing, but I've already been asked by a couple of people to do some Mexican wine classes, specifically with just Mexican wines. So, and in Fredericksburg, of course, I've been down to Fredericksburg many, many times. I was going to start a business that me and my big mouth after drinking told some people, and they ended up starting the business before I did.
Oh, no.
So, man.
It is what it is. But I think it's fascinating. And I've been to Europe several times. So once I got the palate from 1996 till about 2006 or 7, I went to Europe at least once a year and drank a lot of Tasted a lot.
I looked at Chris real quick. Tasted a lot.
I love that look. You kind of stopped and said, Chris,
you
don't judge me.
Yeah. Well, don't judge me either. So,
yeah, there you go.
I tasted a lot of wine. So I love, for example, I love Burgundy. And I was talking to a family member the other day about Burgundy, and that Burgundy means Pinot Noir for reds and Chardonnay for whites. Most people think of Burgundy being a red wine, but it's a color, but that's not what we're talking about.
That's right.
Right.
And then, of course, understanding the Bordeaux and how the blends are. And in the United States, we call that meritage. And so if you see a meritage, then you know it's going to have some of those 5 grapes that are to make up that wine.
Interesting.
Same thing with Spanish wine. So I love Tempranillo.
Me too.
Which is what we just had. This
That's right.
Petit. Petit Verdot is one of my second favorite wines, which I guess is wine. It's one of my sister's favorite wines as well.
Nice.
We talk about that and just love the mouthfeel. And for Chris to come up with that Petit was like,
Yeah. That's so cool. That's amazing. So now you're renowned. You have things happening. You had a business that someone stole from you. You should probably do it. But so where are we now? In the last 10 years, what are some of your great accomplishments? What are some of the things you're extraordinarily proud of? And then, we'll finish with kind of like the future as well. But what are some of the things in the last decade now that you've achieved, and obviously meeting good people and building those relationships? What are some of the fantastic things you can share?
They're fantastic to me. First of all, as I said, I started educating myself. Educating myself.
As for the uneducated.
on wine, just getting some of those letters behind my name.
Very cool.
WSET, CSW, Texas wine specialist, Napa wine specialist, American wine specialist, Italian wine specialist. It's fun, but at the end of the day, that truly doesn't really matter if your palate's not good. Especially
so true.
That is
what
true.
I do.
Yes.
Because I don't consider myself a somm. Because that's not what I do. There's a place for everything. And Chris has also been in the restaurant business. And so there's a dishwasher, there is a somm, there's a general manager, there is a chef. And if you can work well with a chef, then that's really where it is. And so I've been doing a lot of wine pairing. I got involved with a Mexican charity called Cuidado Casero, which we've raised a lot of money for the past 5 years. It's a wine event that we put on every year. And last year, somebody says, well, why don't, Wineaux Guy? I'm like, what? They said, put your class up for auction.
Live very
auction.
good.
I'm like, okay.
That's clever.
Next thing you know, my wine class is only about $1,000. By the time we were done, it was $5,000 the donator made. So people were in tears. They couldn't believe we just raised $5,000 from just one item.
That's beautiful.
And because I had just done a dinner with all these wines and all these pairings, matter of fact, Chris had donated some wines to one of those events.
Very nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it has become that probably is the pinnacle for me, is being involved in charities, helping them raise money. Since then I've had a lot of charities from all different places ask me to put one of my classes on donation. And so I do give those away freely, because we, as Texas winemakers, Texas vineyards, Texas farmers, we need to talk about that more.
Yes.
And the way to talk about it, it's a grassroots thing, and it's not going to be, it's not an overnighter. I said earlier, we've been making wine for 400 years, but it hasn't been marketed for 400 years. Right. People talk about Napa, but they had the 1976 thing in Paris, right?
Right.
That helped propel them. Without that, who knows where we would be?
Oh, yeah.
Texas may be the wine capital of the world, depending on where things go and how things fall.
Well, don't be stealing my thunder here. That's one of my big questions here. Come on, man. But so where can our listeners reach out to these charities? How can they get involved? Because, one of the things I guess this is part of my mantra now for the rest of my life, is I'm not interested in grocery store wines. I am interested in local wineries, supporting local businesses, local ownership, and for sure being involved in that. Well, to have access to you would be amazing. So my group, my arena of people I hang out with now would love. So how do our listeners find you? How do they go auction off some and donate some money to great charities? What's a good example of something coming up here shortly in 2024?
Well, first of all, Wineaux Guy is a Facebook.
Okay, perfect.
Guy.
Yeah.
So first of all, that's one place.
Yeah.
Wineaux Guy is also on Instagram. My email is my name, so it's wineauguy@andygonzalez.com. So it's really easy to get a hold of me to get involved. I actually have, because of the marketing, if you will, that I do for the charity on Facebook and other places, people have reached out. Can I help out? How can I be involved? I love that.
Nice.
And I think that once you see the recipients, this particular one is a fundraiser for nursing. And when you see that young child, that young man or young woman receive their money,
pretty cool. Well, I think all of us are wired the same here in that regard. I mean, we're all emotional, but also it's cool to help. I mean, it's cool to contribute. Instead of sitting on your hands and not doing anything, that's not how we are operating, right? We got to help out. And so that's such a clever idea to be involved in that arena, utilizing your skills and your strengths, and then of course raising money for different organizations.
But to that point too, one of the things I've done since I started with this group was throw in Texas wine often, because we're a Latino organization, first of all.
That's beautiful.
And we always do it, or have done in the past 5 years, during Hispanic Heritage Month. So we try to get wines from Latin America, but I keep putting Latin grapes, i.e. Tempranillo, i.e. Garnacha, Viuda, Verdejo, Albarino, one of his wines again. So that year was some of his stuff because people don't know.
That's right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's right.
I've heard banter back and forth, the pros and cons, all this stuff, but until people know and can have someone that says, yes, California wines are fantastic. But guess what? Texas wines are fantastic. And guess what? Missouri wines are fantastic. You may not like them, and that's okay. I don't like broccoli, but doesn't mean it's bad for everybody.
That's so funny.
Is that Texas broccoli or?
Yes, especially Texas broccoli.
I just had a conversation with a guy today. I tell him, I'm an open-minded guy except for Brussels sprouts. That's what I told the guy today I talked to.
I feel the exact same way. I agree
Andy
with
and I
you.
are the same there too.
Just put ketchup on them.
No, ketchup on Brussels sprouts.
Come on.
My wife will.
You just don't even cook them. Period. You don't have to worry about it.
That's awesome. Well, Andy, so you have been impactful to me. I mean, knowing that you were going to be here today, just knowing the iconic figures in the state. I put you up in that tier, if that's okay, if I can do that for you real quick. But what's the future?
So it's Chris and it's Andy. So people can't see this.
Chris and Andy.
Andy's right on top.
No one can see it. But
Nobody can see it.
You can kick him under the table. So I think Chris is up there too. But
no, I think Chris and Andy are both pretty brilliant guys.
Yeah. So one of the first companies I owned was a company called The Next Level, and I'm going to utilize that story real quick because it was a sports marketing and Next Level. You get that, but where's the next level for ND?
Next Level actually is 2024. I will be having a new website created. It's going to be called Add Vino, ADDVINO. Get it? You add wine. Right? Part of this will be educational aspects of it, of course, because I love teaching. A charitable aspect of it because I love donating to the world, and a travel aspect to it because I'll be taking wine trips to places. People have already asked me, can you be part of our chaperone so that we can drink good wines or not? Because I want you to drink bad wines. Real quick story. I was teaching a class in 2012, and this lady says, I brought this wine. My husband and I have been saving this for years. And I looked at the bottle, I looked at the date, I looked at the grape or the varietal, and I said, okay, we'll do it at the end. Well, I opened it, I poured it, and I could already tell you.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yikes.
Okay.
Yikes is a great word.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and let her taste it, and she says, it's not so bad. And then I tasted it. I said, no, ma'am, this is spoiled wine.
Yeah.
She says, and she teared up too, and she says, that means me and my husband have been drinking bad wine our whole life and not.
That's awesome.
So again, you don't know what you don't know until you understand what good wine, air quotes, means.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And so Add Vino is coming to help.
Add Vino, ladies and gentlemen. Add Vino. Love it. .com. Cool. And then in addition to that, some travels, anything people can look forward to as you enter their space?
Well, my nephew yesterday says, let's take me and my cousins to Mexico and let's go drink some wine. I said, okay, let's go. It's Ensenada. So that's where you go into San Diego, drive down to Ensenada, and then go to the wineries, and that's the hub.
Okay.
But you don't have to have a hub because there are B&Bs and homes and vineyard farms that would welcome Americans to come down there and drink some wine. They're beautiful wines.
That's awesome.
So that's one of the big ones coming up next year.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to kind of watch you now as I now know you personally and just kind of watch the great successes you have this year. But I'm going to ask you probably the toughest question of the night, if that's okay with you. And it's actually a fun question. And Chris, if you want to participate in this too, I think it'd be great. But our 2023, last year, our experiences were meeting great people. We're seeing this almost this tipping point of what's happening in Texas. Can you give us your perspective on where Texas is in the wine industry? You had mentioned mid podcast that, this could be the homage. This could be the capital of wine someday. Where are we in Texas? Because we're super proud of the wines we're having. And can you compare it to maybe where California was? Give us a day or something like that. And I want your real honest perspective on that, because I think because I think it's important that we know that we still have a lot of fighting to do, right? We still have a lot of learning and growing.
Do you have a 7-second?
So you better be careful what you're asking for.
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I think that was it. I mean, I'd love your perspective. And then Chris, as you're traveling around the world now too, your wines are going to all corners of the country and maybe beyond. I'd love to get your perspective as well, because you have a lot of people come in here probably from other parts of the state and other regions and of course other wineries. And so you're getting this vibe as well. You have your hands on the pulse. But Andy, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, where we've been, I think it's been great. I've been listening a lot. One of the things that I do a lot is to give the best advice, if you will, is to listen a whole lot. Mm-hmm. Listen, as they say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, listen twice as long.
Yep.
So I know that I've heard at least that there's a few AVAs that are going to be new ones potentially coming to Texas, which I think the more AVAs we have, we're going to be better off. What the AVA does, American Viticultural Area, what that's going to do for us is tie down what we call terroir, which is the reason behind why so-and-so's wine tastes like this or tastes like that. I have friends that love to buy expensive wines. Mm-hmm. And okay, fantastic. But Texas is on the verge. I know that we've got to figure out a few things. As you know, that 75% of the grape has to be in the bottle to put the label of Tempranillo on it. Yeah. But you don't have to tell what the other 25% is. Mm-hmm. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also 75% Texas juice to be called a Texas wine. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's an unfortunate one. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's some rules and guidelines that are stifling us. But I know that, again, Texas, I said this earlier, because of the business I was in, it's a 3-tier system. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of fighting between the legislation and that there's a lot of interests that have their pockets being filled with cash to do certain things. Mm-hmm. And that's an unfortunate situation because it puts us and I see this not from a physical point of view, but I listen to a lot of it. There's a lot of differences in what we should, air quotes, do versus what we shouldn't do to get our wines. And a lot of people are trying to compare us to Oregon or Washington or California, which is not right, because the reason it's not right is you've all heard of a grapefruit. But if I said ruby red grapefruit, if I said Texas ruby red, people go, okay, we have the best grapefruits, period. Right. California can't touch our grapefruit. Okay, but why? Why do we have to compare? Because, the reason that Texas is different is it's different. Mm-hmm. We are different.
Yeah.
And because we're different, then the taste profile is different. You must drink Texas wines, several from different areas, meaning different terroirs, High Plains, Fredericksburg, the sandy loams of Corpus Christi, for example, West Texas, East Texas. And one of those is going to go, I like that. Mm-hmm. And then you'll tell your friends, and they'll tell 2 friends, and so on.
Right,
so
right.
On. Yep. And that's how we're going to do this. Okay. So AVA, because I was in Paso Robles recently, and I'm drinking with some people, and one of my persons that was with me said, well, my brother's Wineaux Guy. So they said, oh, really? And then she went, on her computer, poof, there I pop up my picture. She goes, oh, he is Wineaux Guy. And I said, well, yeah, that wasn't the point. And I said, so what do you know? What's your favorite AVA? To this lady that was sitting next to me, she says, what's an AVA? Wow. Okay, so someone in California, from California, doesn't know what an AVA is. So it's not all about that.
Right.
There's so much that we don't know, so that we don't know what to ask. We don't know what to say. So Texas, I think where we're going is we're on the right track.
Good.
When I started drinking wine in Texas, I think there were literally 79 wine places you could go drink wine.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy. I met
grown.
Paul Bonarigo back then.
Yeah.
And I met a few other guys that I would drink their wine because those were the ones that were available.
Yeah, sure.
So again, availability is the other part of this big giant equation that we're trying to figure out. Because if you can't get Edge of Lake wines out there, then how is anyone going to try them?
Correct. Yep.
And again, the Texas distributors are also not working with us. They don't put us front and center. We're back there in the back, somewhere on the bottom shelf.
We see that across the board with some festivals or the state fair or whatever it is. We're just noticing that trend. So, I mean, that's a major effort. It's one of our goals, actually. If we were to mission statement it, that's what we're trying to do.
And that's a great statement because I also, one of the other companies I run, I do educational classes for the food service industry. Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission classes. So get people certified to serve alcohol and food and stuff to serve food. Well, this year I picked up the contract for the state fair and found out that guess what? In their wine tasting place, you know how many Texas wines they had?
I think we saw 2.
I think 3.
Two brands.
Yeah, 2 brands. We saw Ready
That's it.
Yeah.
This is the great state fair of Texas.
That's right.
And there was not any great Texas wine.
So who was it from Messina Hoff? Paul. Oh man. When he threw that up on that Facebook page, Texas Wine Lover page, man, it was just like the page just blew up. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to silence this for just a little bit because I mean, it's just, but I commented on there because it said going to our state fair and you don't see Texas wine in there.
But I'm the optimist. Now we have a gentleman who is involved in that. So let's watch the next couple of years. Let's get after it, man. Let's change things, right?
Well, and you said what else is coming up. So that's one of my going to be one of my call to arms, if you will, because I happen to have contacts with certain people that can make that happen there.
Perfect.
So
I got the muscle if you need me.
They got muscle too. So.
Yeah, they do.
And remember what I said about the deep pockets.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that's their muscle, not my muscle.
Yeah, that's true. So that's the big thing. AVAs, that's going to have to add so that someone can say wine from High Plains. Okay, now I get it. Because guess what? Most of our wine comes from the High Plains.
Yeah.
Why? When are we going to start doing a lot of Red River wines, for example? You mentioned earlier in a private conversation about some different vineyards up north.
That's right.
They deserve their own AVA because I promise you it's different than it is on the east side of Texas.
It is
absolutely.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Well, a takeaway or like one of my golden light bulb moments in 2023, and now that's why I'm bringing this up, is I think there's a legislative effort that we have to make to get down there and change some things. I think it started when we talked to Roxanne down at Lost Oak the one time. I've just been really passionate about it all year. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, and then Chris, I want you to jump in for sure. And that is, I think that it's important that Texas has its own identity, its own strategy. And what you just described to me is a good start to that. It's a foundation. But I don't think we need to follow the Yakima Valley and the Columbia River and then down through Oregon and the Willamette Valley and then into, of course, the Sonoma Valley. It's our own identity. I think it's really important that we start with a foundation. I think what you described is going to be a big part of that. So thanks for doing what you're doing along with many other great people. But, Chris, you've been doing this for a while now too. So what are some of your takeaways in terms of how we're doing Texas?
Even in the short time that we've been directly involved and been open to the public, it's been amazing to see the difference, the camaraderie, the push for everybody to be successful. It's still amazing because I spend a lot of time in the tasting room as well. When people come in and they have no idea that we were here or no idea that Texas made wine outside of a certain, what they preconceived notion. And the only way we're going to be able to achieve that is to continue that relationship as a group, to try to push more involvement with the state and legislative and all those different things. We have to be very careful what we open up the door as far as AVAs and stuff too, because like you said, there's some people with deeper pockets trying to push things in their own directive. but we're shining. We're shining. But the problem is we're really only shining to the people that are paying attention. Right. And I think our hardest objective now is to let people know that we're here that aren't paying attention. I have lots of friends that live all over the state, and they obviously know what I'm doing now. I may not have talked to them in years, but they've reached out to me and was like, hey man, I didn't even really know. And they're an hour and a half away from Fredericksburg, you know, and they live in Austin. They have no idea that there's a Texas wine scene going on. And I think their automatic perception is that I'm up here making sweet wines, which is the farthest thing from the truth in this place. And so, how do we get those people without the obscene amount of money to invest? It's because most of us are smaller. Our other big objective to fix some of the AVA issues is you're not going to be able to achieve that without getting more vines in the ground. For all these little sections. I mean, everybody in like he said, I agree with what he said about Red River. I think that's true. Need more vines up there. The guys that got Hickory Sands down out north of Fredericksburg area, they have, each one of those vineyards has 20 plus acres of vines to their name. And that's why they were able to achieve that. So same problem. Everybody's talking. There's not enough vines. We can't make, you want to correct the 75, 100% rule, whatever. We need more. And it's really uncomfortable to talk about after having a bumper year crop in 23, where vineyards up in the high plains are talking about how many tons they had to drop on the ground. But there was no communication of where those grapes could go. That's our biggest problem. And because the only people paying attention are the ones that have the biggest pockets. And so there's a lot of things we need to overcome as a group. And I think, keeping people involved in our different associations, whether it's Texas Wine and Grape Growers, whether it's North Texas Wine Association, Texas Hill Country, all those things. But all those associations need to now start talking to each other to make these things happen. And that's part of what I think Andy's involved in, I'm involved in, to try to push those things forward.
Wow.
I want to add something real quick.
Please do.
So I have one of my wine studies, group of guys, people got together. We've been drinking wine together now 4 or 5 years. Again, I always push my Texas agenda when I do these wine tastings that we do. And one of my guys, I finally got him to come to Grape Fest. Finally. I'm not going to go. It's Texas wine. I said, please, I'll buy you the tickets. He goes, no, I got it. So afterwards he said, okay, I want to visit with you now. I did it. I went and did this tasting thingy, but I want to talk to you. I said, okay, what's up? He goes, well, we tasted some really, really, really good wine. So first of all, thank you for pushing me that direction. I now have an appreciation for Texas wine. Number one. Number two, he says, but I want to understand something. I said, what's that? He goes, I was tasting from this particular guy, and it was horrible. The next table was amazing. How can we get the amazing guy to talk to the guy that made terrible wine and let them get together and learn to make okay wine at least? He says it's sad because he says, I used to live in California. So I've been there. He's 32. He's been drinking now for about 15 years, wine specifically. He says, it's hard to find bad California wine in general. He says, I'm sure it's there. And of course, when you go to sweet, we're all dry wine drinkers in this room. So for us, it's a little bit different story. But the point was that they're side by side. Why? Where's the disparity? Where's the Chris just said it. Communication.
Right.
Communication breakdown, where we have a failure to communicate what's going on. So, and somebody, I'm not saying who this is, but somebody's allowing even the bad wines to be showcased.
Right. So, wow. That's awesome.
That's pretty heavy right there.
I feel like that was really instrumental. That was really great.
Yeah, I mean, it's the heavy truth, unfortunately, because unfortunately I have not. Well, actually, I did come across one bad bottle of wine, but it wasn't a Texas one, thank God.
You'll find more. I mean, just drinking wine. There's always a crapshoot in a bottle.
Yeah. I've yet though in my 4 years that I've been drinking wine now, and then 1 full year I've been solid drinking wine a lot. I have yet to come up with a bad bottle.
Right. Well, I think this segment that we just did for the last couple of minutes is really important because it's going to set the tone for us as well, Will. I mean, there's things we need to accomplish. We're not just going to be podcasters and go out and meet people and drink wine. We just have to have like a mission statement. And so well, you guys did a great job of really giving us purpose. And if we can help with the communication, if we can help people understand the dynamics. I love what you said, Chris, about just, planting more vines. That is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. You've got to overwhelm the community, especially legislatively, so that they're like, oh, well, that's grown up there. We've got to do something about that. So I think that is fantastic, you guys. Thank you so much for that. Well, Chris, grateful, of course, and Andy. Andy, I'm going to let you wrap it up. Speak from your heart real quick. What you got to tell us? What do you want the listeners to know? And then, of course, how can they reach you?
Well, my favorite listener is the one guy that has this in his ear pods right now. So I imagine you guys, this is your 46th. Correct?
Officially. Our first one of 2024, though.
Correct. Your 46th episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Texas needs to do, as a community of media people, we need to get them involved, because there is a particular media person that I've met through the charity. And every time I do a charity, I meet a media person.
Okay.
And I bring, because I know I'm going to see them at the event, guess what I bring them?
Brochures or something.
Texas
wine. Okay. Oh, good for you. Oh, that's great.
And they say, I never would have known Texas wine is this good until now. And I said, okay, can you help me? So it's okay to say, can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for the Texas vintners, the Texas farmers to say, media, hello, can you help me tell our story? And not just for their pocketbook, but yes, for their pocketbook, because it's not a cheap business. I'm sure you've all heard the statement, you know how to make a lot of money in the wine business. Start with a lot more money.
Start with $5 million and create $1 million, right?
So it's yes. From the heart, I'm saddened by some of the infighting that we have in our wine industry.
Okay.
But I'm hopeful that what some of us are doing, and as I said a moment ago, one of my goals for 2024 is do a lot more about that for the wine industry in Texas specifically, but the wine in general, because again, sweet wine has its place.
Mm-hmm.
There's some very, very successful wineries that only make sweet wines, and I get it, because wine is personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this for you two guys specifically, or as I like to say, you two Utes. Okay, you're younger than me, so you get to be a Ute.
The Utah Utes.
No,
okay.
Utes. Y-O-U-T-H-S.
Utes. Okay.
It's another story.
That's another episode.
Is to talk about every time there should be one question that you ask every one of your guys, your clients, your customers, whatever we are called. What are we called?
Well, you're like our
friends.
Interviewees.
Yes.
Interviewees. No, I understand that, but ask them that question. What can you do? What can you do to help us spread the word?
Sure.
Get legislation going, because again, the legislature, as you know, guys, is all about the almighty dollar.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's what they call the Benjamin, right?
Yep.
So, but it shouldn't be.
Right.
So we've got to find some people that love the state of Texas that are willing to stick their neck out just a little bit.
Absolutely.
And help. What is it already? Again, 400 years, guys.
Yeah.
400 years we've been in Texas wine.
Beautiful. Well, I think the enthusiasm from the people we met last year, and then now, of course, tonight, and I know we'll meet dozens of people here even in the next month, but I think there's something special going on here, Will, and I just want to be a big part of it. And I think the more, I know you talked about doing a press release and even getting our name out there a little bit more, the more our name gets out there, the more people listen to our podcast, the more we get to showcase people like Chris McIntosh, and people will start really embracing that. So it's important what we're doing.
Yep. And that's one of the key things that I really want to focus on more of this year is to definitely get our name out there and show people that there is some good wine out there, and you got to get out there and look for them, because that's what we want to do. That's what it boils down to. We want to bring the Chris McIntoshes. We want to bring the KKs. The Wineaux guy here. Yep. We want to bring people out here to the doorstep, banging on the doorstep, trying to get the wine.
Yeah.
And that's the only way people are going to understand that just because California was making wine and made a name for themselves doesn't mean that Texas wine is better.
Yeah. Well, Andy, we're grateful, buddy. Thank you so much for spending time with us. So I feel like we're like that. We want to learn. We want to pick your brain so much. It's just awesome. We will do it again.
Maybe 6 months from now or something.
I think that would be important. Yeah, we could got a new topic and just really just go after and just all the great lessons you've learned in your life. And Chris, thanks for opening up your place as well.
Oh yeah,
Edge of the Lake Winery here in Valley View, Texas, and it's just such a beautiful place. We're just a gorgeous little place. A home. It was a home. I think now it's your tasting room. So thanks for that for sure. And let's real quick. Speaking of recognizing people and recognition in general, being appreciative and grateful. Texas Wine Club is another great sponsorship, and those guys down in Fredericksburg are amazing, and showcasing all the wines, and so. So anyway, got distracted real quick. Will, focus.
No, I was just pointing at Chris as if he knew who Texas Wine Club was.
Yeah, Wine Club.
I do. They've had a couple of our wines.
Yes,
in their
they
club,
have.
so.
Yes, they have.
Really?
It's beautiful.
Awesome.
You didn't know that? Come on, get it together, young man.
I haven't got a case in a while.
You're such a pup. And then, of course, flywithwine.com. Of course, they are solving all wine shipping problems and dilemmas. And so it's really fun to have that suitcase with you full of wine, whether you're going up to Washington like we just did.
Weren't they just on Shark Tank?
They were just on Shark Tank. Very good.
They were on Shark Tank, yeah.
So that's one of the cool sponsors. They actually sent us one. It's pretty impressive. So it's a full case of wine. Yeah, very good. Well, let's go and take just a quick break. I have a little educational topic for about 5 minutes we want to talk about. But we're grateful. Will, thanks for being here in 2024. It's going to be a great year. And we're excited already about 2025. But we have to get through this year first. So no more stolen equipment, no more flaws, no more scheduling, fiascos that we're going to get after. We need to meet good people like this and showcase Texas wines.
We need to get good secretary then.
No, good secretary. Hello over there. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, we'll be back in a minute. This is Wineaux Texas Vino, episode 46. This is Michael.
This is Will.
Cheers.
Hey, this is Jeff Cole from TexasWineLover.com. We're here with Will, Michael, and Jen from Wineaux Texas Vino.
And this is Amy Nemec with the Texas Wine Lover mobile app. We're wrapping up the interview and moving into the wine education portion of the episode, so stick with us.
Will, that was awesome. What a great podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing to learn more and more each time we do an episode.
Not only learning, but how to start off 2024 with a bang, right?
Oh, yeah.
To have Andy here and Chris here and Rachel here is just awesome. So we're blessed for sure. But let's do a quick little educational portion here, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, what do you got?
And well, I wanted to talk to Andy real quick. And Andy, you had mentioned early in the podcast about the differences, different formulas, different things that affect wine. Well, we all know that. But you said something that really caught my attention. And that is that different glass bottles, different types of corks over time, and of course, drinking glasses, right? Different glasses. Can you just real quick talk about some of those things and how they have changed? And is it for the better? Is it for the worse? Or have there been experiences in all generations? I mean, it's an interesting concept.
Well, it is a concept, but it's true now. So, as you know, sparkling wine, for example, started as people were trying to get rid of the sparkle because it was an accident. Mm-hmm. So the bottles couldn't hold the pressure until certain bottles were created to hold the 6 atmospheres of pressure that's in a champagne. I stand corrected because it's sparkling wine unless it's made in Champagne, France. Mm-hmm. And same thing started changing with the bottle types. The Bordeaux bottle, which is this typical one that you see right here, versus the Pinot Noir bottle, which is a different shape, versus the Riesling bottle, which is another different shape. People say, well, if the punt is deeper, which the punt is the little hole in the bottom of the bottle. So the little punt, people actually think and used to say that if it's deeper, it's better wine. Whatever. Mm-mm. So, no. But to that end, so the same thing with corks. Corks have this thing called cork taint. Some people call it a corked wine, which is a stinky, basement smelling kind of that permeates the wine. The problem is that is actually a bacteria that will grow, literally could take over your winery, which is very scary.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's certain, protocol that you should take to make sure that doesn't happen. And if you even notice it, then you need to take evasive action, as they say. But nowadays, my understanding is that the cork makers are learning how to start with their trees, the cork trees, so that they're not getting or susceptible to that bacteria, which is fascinating. Science is just unbelievable. Same thing with glassware. Most glassware used to be really thick, and I can't think of the name of the glass. I think it was called Libby glass. I think they're in Shreveport, they're Shreveport, Louisiana, because in the restaurant business, you have to have a bunch of glassware, mm-hmm. and breakage is is a percentage that you say we're going to lose 10%. So you don't want to lose that much money, right? But even those glasses have become stronger. There are glasses that are real glass, that are, for the most part, unbreakable unless you slam them down with something. But if they fall on the floor, they're not going to break. Now, that being said, there are those companies that will tell you that their glass makes wine taste better. Okay, sure. It's a market that's out there. There are people that are willing to spend $200 or $300 a glass to make their wine taste better. But if they're drinking really good wine, it won't really matter because the wine is really what's important here. Same thing with food, wine pairing. So glasses have changed. Glasses changed in the wine making from the bottles that they're putting it in. Matter of fact, this past year at the Lone Star, we actually had a box wine that won a gold medal.
No kidding.
What? Oh, hold on.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised because they've evolved as well, but that's fascinating.
But that we could say that for the next topic
or
conversation someday down the road. But box wine has come a long way. So because it's hermetically sealed, it lasts without being tainted by oxygen, which is the number one bad thing for wine.
That's right.
See? So again, there's some things that we can teach you, that I can teach you, that we can talk about, that will change the dynamics of the way you drink wine, probably.
That's pretty cool. And so all those things are important. And like Chris, you're a winemaker. Those things occur to you as you're going through the ropes, right? The glass you order, the cork you order, all the things that are important there.
Yeah. I have a weird, I'm in an in-between stage on the bottles. And like he said, the perception of wine is that it's more valuable or a better quality wine if it's a heavier bottle and has a deeper punt. And the fact is, you can put a really bad wine in an expensive piece of glass.
That is true.
And then there's a movement, I know, with winemakers, I know countrywide, but maybe around the world, about trying to reduce the amount of waste that we have by not wasting money on super heavy glass with deep punts that just go into a landfill somewhere.
Right.
The same, I think the very first year we bottled, actually our very first bottling, we put, 10 on top, the capsules, and I really didn't like the way they looked, and they don't really, they're a decorative piece. They don't do anything for the wine. And so to try to reduce our amount of waste, we've eliminated that. We don't use them at all anymore.
I just noticed that as I look around your tasting room.
Yeah, and so I think following some of those things, because an expensive bottle is not going to make a good wine last longer.
True that.
The way it's cellared, the way it's cared for, the quality of the wine when it went into the bottle. So are we really doing any benefit? But if we want to there's a counter to that. If we want to make a stamp in some of our higher end wines, and we're asking $60, $70 a bottle for some of these wines, if they pick up the bottle and it doesn't feel expensive, are we hurting ourselves? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah,
because
it does.
Yeah,
the premium winemakers are still putting their high dollar stuff. I mean, you buy some Napa Cabs that are in that $250 range, and you picked it up and it didn't weigh enough, you'd be like, man, where'd my money go?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
We have like 9 new podcasts just right there in the last, with these two fellas in the last 20 minutes.
The dynamics have to change, Michelle.
The
dynamics have to change with what is acceptable.
Hold on. When we signed this contract, Carlos,
sí quiero, podemos hablar en español.
No hablas español, muy poquito. Yes. Well, that's good though. No, I like,
His name is Michelle.
It's Michelle.
I love that.
Say Michelle.
I think it's great.
You literally took me off guard, but I was just like, la, Michelle. And I'm like,
I think it's great.
I think you should embrace it. I embrace Christopher all day.
Christopher?
All day.
Christopher?
Yeah, it's on my card. It's fine.
What did I say?
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Oh.
It was a moment though.
I know,
it was a moment.
Well, we were talking about
things have to change in order for that.
Change?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. I was saying that what he said, the perceptions from our customer, you guys that are listening right now, you guys can help us change this, because it doesn't need to be a heavy bottle to be good wine. Because I just told you guys that a box won a gold medal.
That's beautiful.
Recently in several competitions around the country.
Was the box heavy?
Well, how about drop the mic? That is beautiful. Isn't that perfect,
Yes,
right? That's a good educational portion.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, fellas, thank you so much. I mean, this has been so much fun, and what an actual pleasure and a treasure. It's been amazing. Will, quick takeaway from these two comedians over here?
I will have to say is first off, there's a lot of good information that was received here, Michelle.
Right.
So I can't.
He can reach your face from there.
Yeah.
So
I know. I have to start calling him Michael. I can't call him Michelle. I mean, it's just. But I mean, the information that we received here, and I trying to become a winemaker myself. I learn every day something new. I love to sit down and learn, and every time we sit down with two people like Michael and Andy here, and they
Hi, Michael.
I mean, Chris and Andy here. I learn something new every time because I'm thinking, I've learned quite a bit. Nope, I didn't learn anything at all. I learned a thimble.
Right. Remember we talked in 2023 about your takeaways being a little shorter. Okay, so my takeaway,
not a good start.
My takeaway is actually really simple, and that is this: how awesome is it, the amazing resources we have in the state of Texas?
Yes.
And so the takeaway is that, ladies and gentlemen, we are blessed in Texas to have these great resources, these great assets, people who are fired up and excited about the wine community. And to me, that gets me excited. That gets me excited about continuing this and just being around these folks. We want to be friends with these people. I know you and Chris go a ways back, but I want to be a better friend, Chris, than you are. But to me, it's just awesome. And how cool is it? So for the folks who are learning the wine industry, they're learning about Texas wines, they're starting to venture out and go to these little mom and pop wineries or even a little bit bigger. How much excitement is there going to be knowing that we have these great people to back us up? They have our back. They have our back for sure. Yep. Well, good. Well, thank you so much, fellas. It's exciting. I always finish with a couple quotes. And so my quotes today, one is a little bit more, in 2023, someone came out with a movie called Napoleon. So I'm going to quote Napoleon Bonaparte real quick.
Wait a minute. Are these going to be really in depth?
This one is. So you'll have to, in like 3 days, you'll get it. Chris will get it immediately. But clearly, the pleasure, this is Napoleon Bonaparte, by the way, okay, the Renaissance. Clearly, the pleasures wine afford are transitory, but so are those of the ballet or of a musical performance. Wine is inspiring and adds greatly to the joy of living. Napoleon Bonaparte. You didn't know he was so deep, did you? And then a fun one real quick.
He was also insane.
Yeah. Great wine works wonders and is itself one.
Okay, repeat that again.
Great wine works wonders and is in itself one. That means it's a wonder. Isn't it great?
I know.
2024 is going to be great, buddy. I hope you're doing well.
Yes.
Thank you to these guys real quick, and we're going to just move on here. And it's been a great podcast. We're excited about it.
Yes.
So we're going to continue next week, and throughout the year, it's going to be great, right?
Oh, yeah.
So from Wineaux, Texas Vino, this is Michael.
Yes, it will.
Cheers.
Cheers.